it's not so much about like, you don't have a spark, let's light the fire for you. It's like,
Right.
how do we remove the things that are dimming the spark or blocking that soul spark within you? It starts with daily devotion, where you
Mm.
are giving yourself time every day to be with the vision, or just empty out the heavy stuff that's blocking the potential vision from coming through. You feel it, you know it.
Hmm.
Feel that calling. It's time, and we need it now.
Hey y'all, I'm Lillian Reese Brown, and welcome to Making Meaning, a podcast by the Cohere Collective, here to walk alongside you on your path to make meaning in a way that makes sense for you. And this week, I am joined by Cailen Ascher. Cailen is a business coach and a life coach, but these titles, I've always resisted these titles, and I sense that Cailen probably does too. Her work is so expansive. And I was even just reviewing all my notes from our conversation and how so many different beautiful places we went, but not even just that, like the amount of insights that I had about my own work in this conversation was so profound. And Cailen's power, her passion is supporting women in creating their vision and bringing it manifest. And that truly is an act of magic and empowerment. And it was just so lovely to be able to sit down and chat with Cailen, yes, about her process, how she helps others tap into this sense of purpose and fulfillment, but even more so, why that's so important to her and how she's done that work for herself. Because as you all know, we love to talk about on this show, I find that when people are able to tap into this for themselves, that is when the game changes and they then are called to help other people do the same. If you are interested in learning more about Cailen Ascher and her work, specifically if you are a woman with a business that you feel is a movement, I highly recommend you check out the links in the description wherever you may be listening or watching to check out Cailen and learn more about her work. And if you're interested in learning more about the Cohere Collective or the Making Meaning podcast, there will be plenty of links down below to check out as well. Okay, that's all I have for you. So as always, let's take a deep breath. And get started. Cailen, thank you so very much for joining me this afternoon. I have been so looking forward to our conversation, and I'm just thrilled that we have this time to sit and connect and chat about your work and meaning and alignment and all of these beautiful things.
I know. I'm so looking forward to it too, Reese. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. Well, my very first question to hopefully set a good tone for our conversation is, what is one thing you're grateful for right now?
Hmm. My girls. Yeah, my girls they bring so much light into my life. And I think they're not old by any means, but they're getting older. They're 9 and 11. And I just like them more and more as I get to know them better. They're so cool. And they're each so their own person, which is so, I just like try not to get in the way of their own path, because
Mm-hmm.
clearly each came in with like a soul path, because they're so distinct and so different, but we have so much fun together.
Oh, I love that. I love that. There is something so truly magical about a mother-daughter relationship, and it's something that the older I get and learn more about my mom and her relationship with her mom and the ancestry and lineage that that carries, there's just something really magical in like powerful female bonds and relationships. And actually, secretly, I've always been jealous of everyone with sisters. I only have a brother. So I'm like, your girls are very lucky that they have each other too.
I tell them that when they forget it.
Right, right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure, of course, it comes with the classic sister bickering. How could it not? Well, to hopefully crack our conversation open a little bit and just dive more into you and your work, I would love to hear about your story. I know that that's a really big question, but whatever you feel called to speak to in terms of your story, I am so excited to listen and hear all about it.
Yeah. So, speaking specifically about my journey into the work that I'm doing now, which I think feels the most relevant for our conversation today, it started probably when I was in my teen years. I always felt like I was not, and I never did work a 9 to 5 in a cubicle at an office. I just knew that there was something else calling to me. Took me a really long time to figure out what that was, but I was fortunate to have parents who were both entrepreneurs in their own right and told me, if you follow something you're passionate about, if you look to contribute and serve through meaningful work, like this is the path. And so I feel so fortunate I wasn't like, well, if you want to make money, you should be a doctor or a lawyer. Sort of those traditional messages that we received didn't come my way, which is both a blessing and it was a double-edged sword, because
Sure.
I probably was not very naive to the challenges that are also on that path of entrepreneurship and following the calling of your soul and the initiations that happen one after the next. But it it was and still is deeply important to me to be on that path. So it led me through into my 20s. I was an interior designer for a bit of time. My mom had done that work earlier on in her career, so it felt sort of close to home. It felt familiar. It was creative. It was enjoyable, but wasn't it. And
Sure.
then I went on to get certified in yoga and meditation, and that felt a lot closer to it. But I think for a lot of us, our soul doesn't necessarily come through with a job title. It's sort of like
Right.
you're weaving together these pieces, and yoga was a strong thread. And then from there, you know, just the way life presents opportunities, found myself working with other yoga teachers, helping them build their business, their brand. It was something I was doing for myself and was just passionate about, and realized, oh, this is a job too. Like
Yeah.
I can help other people who are doing this beautiful practice, this beautiful work, help them reach more people. And so that got me into the business coaching space, which I've been in for the last decade. And then just starting to not call myself a business coach as much because the work for me is so much deeper and richer and more holistic than.
Mm,
But that was a growth journey. I mean, I started my business coaching business when my first daughter was born. I was building it as my second daughter was born and into this moment where I just turned 40 a couple months ago. And I really feel this opportunity now that my girls are a bit older, they're in school, for the school day, to really evaluate like what is the legacy work I want to be doing?
mm,
What is the most important mission that I am here to steward on this planet. And for me, in this moment, knowing that it always can shift and change, it feels so important to connect with spiritually grounded women and support them in bringing their good work into the world and
mhm.
allowing their soul to direct the business plan. And because for me, I was sort of either on this journey of the last 20 years of building my businesses, either working on my spiritual growth and my personal development and my self knowledge, or investing in business coaches and programs that would help me with the strategy side.
Right.
And I, as a person and my business lives at the intersection, and that feels like such an important conversation to bring some volume to. So
Mhm.
that's where I've landed in real time and have been navigating over the last year or so about weaving together all these threads that have sustained me over the last 20 plus years of being an entrepreneur and bringing it into an, a new form for the years ahead, however long and exciting that may be.
Right, of course, hopefully very long and very exciting. Um, Thank you so much for sharing. I think that that's really profound in so many ways. And I want to go back to something that you said at the very beginning of your story when you were talking about your path and this calling and just feeling this call of more. And you said that you found a few things, but it just didn't feel like it. And we practiced at this, but it just didn't feel like it. What is it?
Mm, yeah, that's the question, right? So
Right.
for me, when I what I was seeking and searching for and what I'm feeling more and more and more is what I call alignment, which is
Mm-hmm.
this it's a true feeling in my body of like feeling this charge of energy surging up for me sort of from my low belly all the way through my chest into my neck and throat like it wants to come out like it wants to be spoken out. I feel so excited and on track, just like this full body activation of power and connection.
Mm,
And so for me, and there were moments of that, of course, along the way, but it hadn't sustained itself consistently until more recent months, honestly, when I was really looking at, okay, what pieces of the business coaching wants to come with me? What pieces of yoga? What pieces of personal growth? What pieces of business growth? And putting together my own unique puzzle
mm-hmm.
and not trying to drop myself cleanly into a box of I am a yoga teacher or I am a business coach and sourcing that sourcing it from within rather than looking for that external label that I could slap on myself and then feel like, yay, I have an identity now.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so that the it piece is really something that it, for me, it feels like, oh, I'm directly expressing my soul's work on the planet. It feels like so meaningful and it feels more like a mission and a movement rather than a job or a business.
Mm. Oh, I love that. That's so, so juicy because I was actually just having a conversation with a good friend of mine who also has a podcast the other day. And she
She
was
was
talking
talking
about
about
how it's hard when you see other people doing things that are similar to you and gaining success maybe faster than you or thinking that you're not accelerating in this quick enough. And I was like, it's easy to start a podcast. Anyone can buy a mic. Anyone can do a weekend intensive and get coach certified, right? And then hang a shingle. Like anyone can do that. Not everyone can start a movement. Or I'll take that back. I do believe that everyone could start a movement, but no one can start your movement but you, right? Like that's the difference. So I love that. And of course, you use the word soul. One thing that I'm very, I love drilling down into the nuances of this because I think, especially when we're discussing more spiritual or numinous kind of ineffable experiential things, we have some words to talk about these things, right? Like soul, energy, universe, spirit. But I'd love to hear what that word really means to you. And as we continue to use it throughout our conversation, when you speak to like, it is my soul expressing, what is that piece of you that is expressing?
That's such a beautiful question. And one I don't know if I've ever been asked. I think people all
Hmm.
have their own assumptions about what that means, and then we just go on
Right.
from there. So, in my experience and definition, as I'll do my best with,
Yes, no,
are
that's perfect.
mm, the way I feel and experience my soul. It feels like something vaster and e- vaster than my human existence and eternal. Like this little spark of the divine that I
Mm,
have the privilege of carrying with me. And it's really easy with all of the noise of the world and all of the complexity and challenges of being a human to not see the spark or feel that spark or honor it. And so a lot of the work that I've done for myself personally, and now that I support my clients with, it's not so much about like, you don't have a spark, let's light the fire for you. It's like,
Right.
how do we remove the things that are dimming the spark or blocking that soul spark within you?
Mhm.
So for me, it feels like when I talk about expressing my soul, it feels like layers of conditioning have lifted and my most authentic expression is coming through. The
Mm.
truest version of me is stepping forward. And that's not an easy place to be all the time, but I think with practice and with intention, we can tap into that and operate from that connective place more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I another thing that you mentioned in your story that I think ties back into this is the challenge and the challenges that arise in following the spark, the calling, the path of itness, right? And boy, oh boy, is it challenging. And it's like the most painful thing that I feel like I've ever experienced are the failures in this, because it's like, how can I be falling so short in this way that I feel like is also meant for me, and there's nothing else that I could be doing, and it can be really painful. But I've always found that, at least for me, it is those moments that do become those initiatory moments that bring us closer in alignment, to use your beautiful language, with what this feeling, this path is. Um, I'd love to hear a little bit more about these specific challenges that you faced and what these moments of initiation feel like, and how it can still be challenging, even now, as someone who helps other people do this work, right? That it's like, we don't just, you know, boom, reach it. And I have some issues with this word, but I'll use it for simplicity here. You don't just reach enlightenment and then you're enlightened for the rest of your life and we're good and it's easy and no challenges ever, right? So I'd love to hear about the challenge of walking this and the continual piece of that as well. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, the challenges are real. And I feel like, at least in the industry I'm in, it is glamorized and glorified that you have walked a challengeless path of like,
Mm,
you know, overnight success, 10K, 20K, 30, 50K months. So easy, snap of my fingers, sort of.
yeah.
And I have no doubt there are stories like that. And there are people who have done some, deep healing, and now money is like a non-issue for them. But for most people I know, and myself included, the the money piece and the timing piece has always been where I meet a growth edge,
Mm,
to put it in the best positive light. So always feeling like I'm not far enough along, I'm not moving fast enough. I should have hit certain milestones by now. If I'm having 3K months, I should be having 5K months. If it's 5K months, I should be having 10K months. Always feeling like I'm a year, 2, 3, 5 years behind where I
right.
should be, should, the operative word.
Mhm.
And then tangled into that is the money piece of, I know my work is valuable most of the time. And then there's moments where we all feel it, where we question, well,
Mhm.
would someone really pay for this? And I feel like it's a beautiful idea. And people have said that to me, but no one's invested yet. So what does that mean? Or I opened the door for this new offer and no one's walked through it yet. And
Mhm.
I, I have a tendency, and I think many people do, to make meaning and weave stories out of things that are just happening in my grandest vision for me, not to me, but for me. It's like, okay, well, there's a lesson here, there's an opportunity here. Just because my human self, human mind thought, well, this is the plan, in the next 30 days I'm going to make X amount of money, I'm going to get X amount of clients, these are the things that are super important. If I'm truly honoring the path of my soul, she's not caught up in that stuff. She's like, no, we've got a few more initiations to get through, right? Like, if I
Mhm.
was just to hand you this, you're not going to grow in the way that you need to get to the things you really want of serving in that really profound way and having the impact you desire and being so steady in and of yourself, not dependent on the
Mm.
business to bring the self-worth and the money to help you feel complete or safe. And this is honestly, I mean, even at this point, at this point, I've made millions of dollars with my business over the last decade. I mean, lots of money has flowed through, and I can still have those moments of like sheer panic or fear. And I understand it's until I continue to work on and heal those things, no matter how much money is made, there's always the opportunity to feel scarcity.
Mhm.
And so I think we keep getting the things in different ways, shapes, and forms until we do the deeper work. And I'm one who shows up for that. And you do the deeper work, and then you get initiated at a new level. And you're like, didn't I do this already? Didn't I already heal this? Didn't I already look at this?
Right.
And it's like, oh no, there's a whole new level to the game now.
Mhm.
Spiral staircase you're going up. You're like, I think I was at this point before, but no, I'm actually 3 levels beyond.
Yes.
It's Yeah, I feel like in terms of just what appears for me, the timing piece of not moving fast enough, we're always told that we should get there in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We have these time caps on things of like, if this business doesn't become my full-time income in the next year, I'm walking. And it's like, well, is that really the ultimatum we want to have with our soul's path of like, either
Right.
you fully fund me at 100% in the next 12 months, or I'm abandoning the path of my soul, right? Like if we truly are committed to our work. And, but it's hard, right? Because we're humans and we want to see the external results, manifestations of the deep inner work that so many of us, and I'm sure many of your listeners are committed to doing. And then often what I find is like once it does appear on the external, it feels so normal that I don't even take the time to like often celebrate it, or at least not
Yeah.
as I should.
Right, right. And it's like, okay, we're here. Right. Next thing. What's the next one that we need to reach? And I love you talking about these level ups as well because I relate to that image so strongly of this spiral staircase. And one of my growth edges is the self-love piece. And it's like, I thought I learned this. I thought we worked on the self-worth and self-acceptance, but now we're at this next phase and it's this other iteration of what it looks like. And it's like I have learned these lessons, but I needed that to then equip me for this next version of what self love can be for me in this new version. So I love that image that you created for us there with money specifically, but I think also timing because they are really related, especially when it comes to the journey of the entrepreneur. And I don't think that necessarily everyone's soul path calls them to make money through what it is that they do. However, I think a lot of us, I similarly to the beginning of your story where you're like, a 9 to 5 was just not the thing. That's not what we were going to do. And similarly, I very relate to that where it's like that just has never appealed to me. We do need to make money. We have bills to pay, we need shelter, we need to eat nutritious food. And I think it oftentimes feels like these competing forces of like, how can I not feel this fear that I'm not going to be provided for without also having this expectation that this thing is going to happen overnight, that I'm going to be provided for overnight. And I know it's going to take work and time and energy, but how do I do that with a lack of fear and scarcity mindset while also deeply needing these feelings of safety and security and being provided? Could you talk to us a little bit about that? And obviously, you said that this is a growth edge that continually comes up for you. So I'd love to hear how that relationship for you has evolved and how you currently work on that and this feeling of like, I am provided for. It is all in good timing without I think the other thing that I really struggle with is without undermining the fears too. Like, how do we give space to the fears without letting those dictate or control?
Yeah. That's such a beautiful question. Okay, so I think, and you said it already, and it's worth restating. I don't think everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. I don't think everyone is meant to monetize their, soul's calling and their soul gifts, or I think that's a special packaging of it,
Sure.
or a unique packaging of it. And I think there's also so many other ways that it can be expressed. I think, people who do have more traditional jobs, it is so needed for people to bring in revolutionary and innovative thinking into those spaces as well. Or for people to contribute to their community in a way that requires or demands no compensation, that they're just giving. But for those of us that are called to bring this through in a business fashion, I think a really important piece for me was I didn't put all the pressure on my business to make me all the money
Mhm.
right away. Worked bridge jobs. I had a job at a little furniture store in a cute town near me, which, looking back, I'm like, oh, that was so sweet. And I was like so desperate to get out of that job. It's like I walked to the coffee shop and grab my coffee, and I would sit in this like cute store and people would wander in. Had time to like work on my business while I was there. But yeah, I had bridge jobs, and then I managed other people's social media accounts while I was building my business, kind of doing sort of like light VA work at different times because it felt, my belief, I guess, at that time was it felt easier for the money to come through in other channels for a while before I opened myself up to the possibility of it coming through consistently my business, the channel that
Mhm.
I created. And I think, we all have we all have a relationship with money. We can't not have a relationship with money in the world that we live in. We deal with it every single day. And so at this point in my life, I have lived enough years that in moments when I do feel that scarcity or that stress or that launch didn't go as I thought, or this was my revenue goal for this month and we fell short, or whatever it is, I have enough historical data at this point to know and remember I've always been supported by money. I've always, even when was really lean in the bank accounts, I've always had more than enough. I've always been able to pay my bills. And even just looking around my office now, like everything in this space was brought here because of a monetary transaction. This
Right.
computer in front of me, this water bottle sitting by my side, like all of these things arrived because of money. So I am literally surrounded by money. Money is literally supporting me. It's paying for the house that I live in, the car that I drive, the phone that I guess I don't talk on my phone that much, but the phone that I do everything else on.
Right.
And so having some of these, you know, differences of I am deeply supported, even in my moments that were the leanest and the most stretched and the most stressful. And I know everyone has a different story, but I am so fortunate. I was never homeless. I was never without food in the fridge. I was never alone. I always
Mhm.
had family, around me pouring their love into me. So it's those are the things that bring me back when I go into my like isolated dark mind tunnel of like, oh no, this is the end of the end and everything's spiraling towards failure. I come back and like, I didn't come this far to just come this far. I
Mhm.
navigated things harder than this before, and I've always been supported every step of the way, even through the really tough times. And I survived through all of it. And so sometimes just leveling with myself rather than
Mm.
trying to lay on like, I'm a millionaire, I'm abundance, or money flows to me so easily. Those can feel great sometimes, but if you're not believing it, if you're not feeling it in your body, they're not doing much. So
Right.
doing kind of like level with myself, I've got you kind of self talk feels, it regulates my nervous system. I think
Mhm.
actually what we're getting at here, right? Like to have that regulated nervous system while not ignoring the real things that need addressing. And it might mean
Right.
getting that bridge job, part-time bridge job, or, work from home situation so that you can, in your cracks and pockets of time, be working on your business, um, but not forcing the business to make all the money you need to live right in this now moment.
Yeah. Hey y'all, it's Reese, just briefly interrupting my conversation to ask you what you think. Have you had any insights, any revelations thus far? And if you are enjoying it, I want to invite you to subscribe, to give us a 5-star rating and or a review, and just engage. Wherever you may be listening or watching, it's the very best way to support the podcast, but to also let me know truly what you think about it. I want to know what's resonating, what elements of conversation you are intrigued by. It really does help me in terms of figuring out what guests I want to invite on in the future and making sure that we are co creating this show in a way that is helping all of us walk this journey of meaning making. So let me know, engage, and maybe if there's someone in your life you think you would want to talk to this episode about, share it with them. That would be pretty cool. Okay, back to the conversation. Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that, I mean, this is the piece for me where the timing comes up, right? Because then that also asks some patience that I think it's not just, "Well, I want this to be able to sustain my life. So this is the only thing I need to focus on, this one thing that I want to focus on." But it's also, I'd really love, like you said, with even though it was your very cute furniture job, you're still so desperate to get out of it because there's this other vision that you have. It's like, if only that was like tomorrow, that would be so great. What allows you with the timing to trust the phase that you're in? Because I think also sometimes in a, relationship of co-creation with the universe, I hear so many things that I'm like, okay, the universe isn't a vending machine. We don't just get to like put in gratitude and expect our dream life out of it. Like, this is a relationship that requires tending and nurturing and time and energy. What's been the piece for you that allows you to settle into patience and almost non-attachment, right? I think is kind of part of what I'm getting at, with ultimately allowing things to unfold in the way that you trust they should.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, that's a struggle for me. I think for anyone who really feels the call of this like ambitious vision, we're so hungry to make it happen sooner than it often wants to unfold on its own. What what helps me is to remember that vision, because when I feel like I'm spinning my wheels or spiraling, it's often because I'm in the minutia of my day. I'm like, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I'm, you know, needing to respond to all these emails, and then this popped up and I have to deal with it, or there's a bill that came in that is higher than I thought, and now I have to pay it." And I'm so in the weeds of my life and my business that I can feel really pulled down energetically. And when I come back to, but this is what I'm here to do, and this
Mhm.
vision that I see, and this is the contribution I can make, and what feels so important for me to share. It puts me in a totally different energetic state where it's like, it's not about the money.
Mhm.
The money could be a beautiful byproduct of it, but I get so excited about the people I'm connecting with and the conversations I'm having and the downloads I'm getting and creations that I'm making, the offers that I'm sculpting, all of these things become the fuel. And that's why it's really beautiful if it works out for you to have that bridge job, because often what comes through first is a lot of like creative downloads, and
Mhm.
you need space and time to let it land and figure it out and navigate it. And trying to force it to also make you money can just be a little complicated and heavy in
Mhm.
mind. And so for me, coming back to that big vision, going back to that place, and then also having, I mean, I've got my whole bookshelf here. You can't see it on camera, but it's filled with books of teachers that remind me of my truth and how I truly,
Mhm.
the universe is for me and supporting me, and that I came here with a purpose that is so important, and that I'm ultimately, even through the challenges, being supported and divinely guided and held on this journey. It allows me to feel that like bubble of safety around me, even if it on paper should look like I'm super stressed out and like
Right. Right.
kind of living on the edge. But I think for me, I find that comfort in the vision itself and coming
Mhm.
back to that. And that's why I have a daily practice of sitting in meditation and journaling and giving myself intentional time
Mhm.
to be in that energy before I get knocked sideways potentially by whatever's unfolding in
Right.
the day.
Yeah, all of the different moving pieces and parts that I'm sure also comes with being a mom and all of the things, right? I really love the word you used of vision, and sometimes I mean, because vision is such a big word, and I feel like when we have this idea of something really big, it's usually something that feels very potent to us. We can kind of see this idea of what it looks like, but what our day to day is made up with are all of these really small pieces that it takes to get there and to craft this. And I totally hear what you're saying in terms of like, okay, but we can't forget what it is that we're working towards in that sending an email is a part of this, right? Ultimately, even though the email may not spark that same feeling that the vision does. Um, you used the word movement earlier. And when I think of these words like movement, vision, you also were talking about mission and legacy. What do some of these words mean to you? And ultimately, why do you think it is that you feel called to something that is a big, right? Because I think some of us, at least through conversations I've had about these questions of like purpose and mission, um, they can feel smaller scale. Not to say that they're smaller in terms of importance or necessity, but it is a little bit more about impacting the people in our immediate circle, or maybe a depth of impact as opposed to a breadth of impact, right? What does legacy and movement mean to you, and why is that the form that this vision has taken?
Mm. For me and the women that I work with,
Mhm.
that the word movement is really what we're all here doing. We just, in order to function as a human who needs money, I think that it takes a business form. And there is
Mm.
something really beautiful about that value for value exchange, that you're pouring into people and they're, compensating you adequately for that. I think um, that's an important replenishment that we need. But ultimately, for me, and I don't think I had the word to really, the way to really describe it when I first started my business, but I think that's what it always was. It wasn't that I'm someone who wants to start a business, because if I was someone who just wanted to start a business to make money, there are like a thousand things I could probably do that was easier than
Right.
on this like navigating self-discovery path to create
Right.
the category of one business. Um, I could do a lot of other things. So I think when I realized like, oh, what I'm really juiced up by, what I'm really excited by is supporting spiritually grounded women, helping them
Mhm.
bring their work to the world, being in conversation and community with these women who are just pouring their hearts out through the work that they're doing and helping them bring some structure to it because I have a piece of my brain that's very like, let's make a plan, let's make a structure, let's make a schedule, let's package this up into an offer, let's price it. This is the strategy around it. Like I have, and I operated from that piece of my brain heavily for the
Mhm.
last, 10 plus years as a business coach. And so I'm like, oh, this can be a gift to the people that need it while still working with the people who if movement lands for them, then they're my people.
Mm.
So it's sort of this word that I know if it lands for you and you feel that your soul's calling is calling you to lead a movement, whether that be of 10 people or 10,000 or 10,000,000,
Right.
then I know we are like have that connective soul piece. And it's like,
Mhm.
now we've got common language. Now let's talk about how to move this out into the world so it's not just this felt thing that's like charging your body with energy but that you have practical expressions for it in the work.
Yeah.
And because I think a lot of people have a vision or they have something that wants to come through but they do not know how to translate it into a practical, efficient, effective expression beyond just kind of like feeling it in their body,
Mhm.
writing it in their journal or sharing it with someone they really, really trust.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think that that is kind of it's almost the like, from idea into reality, and I've actually heard, um, a definition of magic recently that I really love that is taking something from the imaginal to the real, and that is kind of what this is that you're talking about, right? That it's like we're moving this thing that is felt, that is perhaps in the mind, that is in the sense of the self, but it's kind of intangible, and bringing it into practice, into habit, into expression, into manifestation of what it is. And we've talked a lot now about your journey and what it feels like for you. How do you help people do this in terms of like, okay, I feel this vision. What is that next step, right? Like, how do we actually begin to enact the magic of this?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is the question, right? It's like, how do we do that? So what I help my clients with, and it's all from lived practice because I was sort of unknowingly testing this all on myself for the last
Sure,
20 years of
sure.
spiritual seeker and wanting to just, yeah, it was like this deep craving to know myself. It's like whether it was studying different religions or different spiritual practices or my birth chart or my human design, it was like, okay, like how can I know me better so I can really understand what I'm meant to bring to the world?
Mhm,
And so the three things that I think are the most important if we're talking sort of about your soul led business plan, what I would say is it starts with daily devotion, where
mm,
you are giving yourself time every day to be with the vision, to or just empty out the heavy stuff that's blocking the potential vision from coming through. A lot of my morning practices, it's like sitting in meditation and literally just like feeling my body energetically empty out, like taking a shower on the inside, releasing what's not mine, letting it go. And then nothing might come through for a little while. We might be in the void for a little bit, but then the downloads are going to start popping. It's like a word's going to come through or a visual will come through or maybe it won't even be in meditation, but later on in that day, because you created space for it, you've cleared out some room. You're going to be on a walk or in the shower and something is going to drop in. You're like, oh, yeah, that really excites me. So,
Yeah.
daily devotion, I think, is a key piece. And that's something that's one of one of the core tenets of what I hope to steward through my work is that it's so important to be in that relational space with
Mhm.
your sacred self, that soul self within you, if you truly want to build your business and your life's work from that place.
Right, right.
Yeah. And then from there, the next piece we would look at is that self knowledge, not just sort of, I'm holding space, but how can I get in and start investigating what is my essence? And the framework that I teach and use is called sacred self alignment. And this is when we look at your vision and really feel what that vision is. And energetically, that would live at like your third eye center.
Mhm.
You feel into your voice and the truth you're meant to speak, and that would live energetically at your throat chakra. You feel into your values and what are the priorities that are important to you? What are the healthy boundaries that you wish to hold in your life and in your work? And that's at your heart center. And then finally, feeling your vibe, your authentic energy, your frequency, and feeling that in the deep low belly. I work with women, so we call it in our womb space.
Mhm.
And so we move from just sort of this, I'm committed to being in devotion every day to a more practical doorway in of what is my vision? What is my voice? What are my values? What are my vibe? And we start asking these questions like, what am I meant to bring through? And the reason I love the practice of sacred self alignment is because it's not just a practice, it's also a framework. And then we start seeing, and this is where we thread the needle with my clients and bringing it into the third piece, which is sacred structure. How does your vision become your mission statement? How does it help structure your offers and your voice that becomes your messaging and your values become the systems and the value structure of your whole business, and your vibe is like your brand essence. It brings coherence through everything. And so, what I was craving, now I've had the opportunity to build and work with my clients on, is that bridge from the like, I feel great when I do yoga,
Right.
or I'm working with my business coach, but the two don't really meet or talk directly to each other. And this
Mhm.
alignment moves you from the daily devotion into the sacred structure. And your soul is that connective piece between the two.
Yeah, no, I adore that, and I think that that really is the missing piece of so many things across the board, whether it be for people who are trying to, build movements from a soul-led place, but I think just in general, there is such a disconnect between, like, these moments of divinity and, like, sacred alignment, and then I have to go get my oil changed, or whatever it is, and it's almost like you clock out. And I was listening to Rainn Wilson's podcast, which I love, and he was talking about how we've achieved a society where it's like we even schedule in our spirituality. We have our moments to tap into this. At 4 p.m. on a Thursday, that's when I go to my yoga class and I give myself the time to do this. But that really is ultimately like coherence, which is my, bread and butter of all of these things should really be intertwined in this way that makes sense, that flows. And if this is your truth, how is that mirrored throughout all of these actions and that resonance that you feel in yoga class or in prayer or in church or whatever that looks like? How can you really thread that through every element of your life? So I think that's so, so beautiful and profound. Um, I do wanna switch gears, maybe a little bit, but it's still connected. I I personally love the language of spirituality, and I find that it's extremely helpful to me, and it's something that is a great access point because that's just a language that I resonate with when I think of soul and like connection with the universe. Why does that language resonate with you? And when you speak about, sacred self-alignment and using language of the chakras and, you know, these words like vibe and frequency, I think we all relatively know what you mean when you're talking about that. What exists behind that for you? Is that something that someone might call God? Is that a faith-based belief system? Um, or is it something unique? Is it, like you said, this just divine exchange and relationship with the self, and in that relationship we find this, or a mix thereof? Not to ask a leading question, but break it down a little bit for me in terms of underlying belief.
Mm, yes. So for a long time, I so wanted a religion that I'm like, I believe everything about this.
Right, right.
And what I realized in the study of, you know, Buddhism and Christianity and different spiritual lineages, earth based and otherwise, I'm like, oh, at their core, when I interpret them in the way that feel best for me, they're all saying relatively similar things at their essence, that there is this oneness in the universe that is beyond us. And yet we're, it's of us, it's, beyond us. We're all connected. And so I do believe in that. I personally do not call it God. That word still holds a charge for me,
Sure.
but or yeah, I feel like it paints a picture in your mind of a person rather than an energy, and when I share it at least. But I do feel like there is this source energy from which we all came and which we will all return. I believe energy, like the soul, is eternal. I think I'm in a human incarnation in this lifetime. And I was here before and I'll probably be here again. That's what feels true for me
Mhm.
I as I've lived 4 decades of human life and seen synchronicities and heard things that just felt and experienced things that just felt so deeply true from
Mhm.
teacher after teacher after teacher. And so for me, when I say soul, I do feel like that is my my connective piece to the divine, my connective piece to source. It's like the expression that's coming through me and being asked to be moved out in this lifetime for whatever reason. I signed up for this for to be this
Right.
person in this time with these, this mission and these gifts. Um and for me, I think how you were sharing about we compartmentalize where it's like, okay, I will be my sacred self when I am in yoga, and I will be my normal self when I'm grocery shopping.
Normal.
And yeah, normal, right? Air quotes there. And I think for me, when I bring words like frequency or vibe or sacred into the conversation around business,
Mhm.
it is my attempt and intention to merge those two. Instead of it being, oh, I get to have my spiritual life over here and I get to have my business over here, that it is me, at least in vocabulary,
Mhm.
trying to create a felt sense of what I experience my business to be, which is a sacred expression. And I know in using that language, my intention there is to also speak to women, to people who feel similarly. Where
Yes.
Because if it doesn't land for you, if you're like, "What the heck is she talking about? Sacred business? Like, is she a priestess?" And it's like, "No, that's not."
No.
Love the priestesses. I have many in my life, and I've cherished them deeply. But that's not who I am.
Mhm.
But the people who get it, get it. And it's like we have this secret language that we're like, "Oh, yeah, we all know that we're not really just, like, business owners. We are these, these sacred souls on a mission and bringing our
Yeah.
work through." And it just feels like it becomes this, like, inner club or something where you're like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, we're in
yeah.
this together, we're connected. We know that there's something deeper here than just, like, making money and getting followers on Instagram."
Yes, 100%, and I think that really speaks to even the word that we were using earlier, initiation, right? It's like, if we've all been through a certain kind of initiation, it's like, we're all beyond one door where it's like, maybe we feel a little bit differently about these things or use slightly different languages to talk about it. But when I hear someone use that word, I'm like, "Okay, I know that we have an understanding beyond a certain level that is really helpful and conducive to have these conversations." And like you said, I love what you said about like, and if that doesn't resonate for someone, like, yeah, we're probably not going to work together well because I do not offer what you're looking for. And so that's okay that it will, push people or not push people away. That sounds aggressive, but it does magnetize you in the sense that like the people who are attracted to that will be pulled in, but also like the south pole of a magnet, those who don't vibe with it will be pushed away as they should be, not in any, you know, negative form, but just that's not what those two parties are looking for and will like support each other in. So no, I love that. And thank you for sharing about your worldview as well. I deeply resonate. And I think that this move into integrating kind of all aspects of life together is something that everyone is deeply feeling. And I know that I've heard a lot of people talking about how, like, um, our isolation during COVID and the pandemic was this time of grand awakening. And I think, yes, it created space for a lot of people to tap into this feeling. But I think also we've just been moving in this direction of us all needing something that is meaningful, that is purposeful, that is mission oriented, right? Whatever we assign for these words to carry. Um, what do you think about on a grander scale, the fact that so many people are being pulled towards these practices and these self-explorations and self-development and self-discovery, but also the fact that like there's plenty of space for there to be lots and lots of women and business owners who do things not exactly as you do it, but similar to what you do in the sense of like, um, helping women come into alignment with themselves. And it just feels like there is this collective energy in this direction. What does that feel like to you? And where do you see your work in that picture?
Mm, I completely agree. I think there is a desire for depth
Mm,
that in my in my column of the world and business coaching specifically, which still, floods my algorithm, there's been such surface level promises. Um,
mhm,
make X amount of money in 30 days, grow your followers by, you know, tenfold in a month, like all of these really big promises without really any substance. And what I'm noticing is that people are craving depth and
mhm,
um, and, I think in a direct response to what happened with COVID, where we all sort of retreated and started working from our homes behind our computers, being isolated, I see a lot of opportunity for people to gather in person again, not
mm,
just virtually, but holding space i- you know, in actual human connection with each other. And so I think there's so much opportunity for people who are coming in with unique soul gifts
mhm.
to really thrive in this era ahead because AI can't replace that. They
Yeah.
can't replace the magic that humans possess. And people are getting really savvy also to these shortcuts that people are taking with their marketing and their emails and all of these things. Like they know what's been written by AI and they know what a human voice sounds like, even if it's through typed copy. So I think as much as there has been so much advancement in AI and technology and all of these things that could make us feel fearful or like we're going to be replaced, I think there's an even stronger now reaction or movement in the direction of people and people's gifts and human connection and really just wanting to be held by something deeper than a computer and bigger than a computer, right? Like
Right,
actually
right.
feel a human on the other side of whatever you're experiencing. So I definitely in my world I have the opportunity to work with so many women who are so talented, and there's also this concern of like is the coaching industry getting too crowded? Is AI going to make this obsolete in a few years? And I just don't see it like that. I think
Yeah.
is room for all of us. I think we rise higher together, that in collaboration and in connection, there's so much more opportunity for growth and expansion than in any sort of competition. And so
Mhm.
I feel really optimistic, honestly, for what I see as the trends in the industry. I think people are becoming a lot more discerning and
Mhm.
real people with real voices and real opinions that
Yes.
might be polarizing or create a little controversy, but when you're with your people, you feel so connected to them because you feel seen by what they're
Mhm.
brave enough to say. So I feel very optimistic about the way of the coaching industry, and honestly for the people that are relying on AI and who don't feel that soul deep connection to their work, who are just in it to make a quick buck or try to make a quick buck, they're all going to fall away. They're just not going
Mhm.
to be able to sustain the like we were talking about, like the challenges and the obstacles that inevitably come
Yeah.
your way when you're on any path. but as an
Yes.
entrepreneur, right, if you're not really committed to the business that you're building, it's so easy to walk away from it and just, go get a job.
Yeah. And I think your work is such proof of that in the sense of like so many women wanting to create a soul led career movement. I'll again use your beautiful language. Um, and in really wanting to bridge the gap between quote unquote normal and the sacred. And I think that what you're doing is really such a solution to this kind of, meaning crisis, as it's been called, of people really feeling this lack in just life in general. Um, when I say meaning crisis, what comes up for you? How do you characterize um the sense of like pathlessness and searching and seeking that especially young people right now are having? I have some of my own theories as to why this is happening and what it looks like, but I would love to know, in your experience, but also as a mom who's raising young people, um, what what you think about this, especially as someone who's seeking to help solve in some way as well.
Yeah, I think I will speak to this one more as a mom.
Yeah.
um, so my girls, as I shared earlier, are 9 and 11. So they do not have phones yet, or they do have iPads, but they get very limited time. It's like for travel, you know, like long
Right.
car rides when mom and dad need a break or on an airplane. So this is not something that's like sitting in their bedroom that they can use whenever they want. This is something they need to ask permission for and they get limited time. What I am very cautious about or aware of is when I grew up, like as I shared, I just turned 40. We had, I think I was 10 or 12 when we got a computer for the household that sat
Mhm.
family room. And that was the one device that we all shared. I think I got my first flip phone in high school when I was staying after school for sports so I could call my parents if I needed them to pick me up. I did not have a smartphone until end of college, maybe. So, not that you're fully grown and mature by any means when you're 22, but it was a very different childhood that
Yes.
I had and that everybody had up until like 15 years ago. And so when I hear about the rates of depression and anxiety and just the things that kids today are experiencing, I can't help, and they've studied this, I can't help but see and feel and know a link between that
Yeah.
and the accessibility of screens and devices that take us from a meaningful potential connection with other humans into our own little singular world on our phone with an algorithm that is creating a singular experience.
Mhm.
And that's something that my husband and I have conversations around a lot is how can we ethically and in integrity and, protect them, but also not isolate them.
Right.
We don't want to make them feel other by not having the phone or the device, but we also don't want to give them something that could honestly like hurt their growth and their brain development
Right.
and these true health issues that are developing from it. And I mean, and I don't have all like the facts and numbers, but just when we think about human existence for thousands of years, we've gathered for ceremonies and rituals and around campfires and stories and in churches and community centers and in even in places of work. And now suddenly especially in like the last 10 years, we've pulled apart where people can really live their whole lives in their home. It's like
Mhm.
either work from home, they can get groceries delivered, they can get food delivered, they can get entertainment, streamed right through their TV or on their phone. Like you don't have to go anywhere for anything. You don't have to interact with anyone. We're not even calling people on the phone. We text. And so there's this huge disconnect. And I know for myself, something that has been so deeply healing for me is gathering um, with other women in sacred circles and in ceremonies and doing these rituals that connect us to one another, connect us to the earth, connect us to the seasons and the cycles, and make you feel like, oh, like I'm
Yeah.
part of something. There's a rhythm here. Like we're humans and we're connected, which is funny because we've been talking about the soul, but the soul is here in a human body and we can't ignore that.
Right. Right.
So I think, kind of went a lot of different ways with this, but for me personally, it's become so important for me to bring the magic and
Mhm.
these, bring the fun at different times into childhood because my girls, I'm like, I want them growing up with memories of like this past fall, we went out into the woods and got big sticks and collected grasses and made witches' brooms. And then they had
I
these,
love
they
that.
wanted to jump off. We had like this rock wall in the back. They wanted to jump off the rock wall and me take pictures of them flying on their brooms. I'm like, they're going to remember this forever. But
I
it was,
that, like, is bringing tears to my eyes. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but just
oh,
what
of course.
a beautiful, beautiful moment, especially as young women, to be able to connect with I mean, all of the things that you help grown women do now connect with that inner power, the inner vision, and this legacy and lineage of magic that we all have, but especially in terms of like witchhood and the witch wound and the role of womanhood in society right now, for them to have such a play filled powerful memory related to that. I'm like, just hearing that story healed something inside of me a
Oh,
little bit, truly. So I'm so sorry to interrupt, but like that's thank you for sharing that.
absolutely. Well, I'm so glad it came through that, because here we are. I mean, in real time, it's the dead of winter. We've got, mountains of snow outside. It's not a fresh story. But it's those moments. I'm like, they're going to know this and remember this forever. They're going to tell this to their own children if they have them someday. If I, if it was an afternoon where they were on their devices lounging on the couch, it would be a blur. It would be lost forever. So, and not that I do that every day, right? Like that was like a
Right.
gold star mom moment, but
Of
but,
course.
but that that is what I want them to feel and remember when they think about their childhood. And so, and they're for it. Like they're here for it. Like if I ask them, do you want to go like make witches brooms or do you want to, watch TV? They would want to make the witches brooms. Like that's just more exciting for them at the ages they are, especially. So I think, it was a big question that you asked, but it's I'm what I'm really hungering for and wanting for my own girls is for them to be raised with that sense of connection and sisterhood, especially
Mhm.
with other women, because I didn't find that until the last couple of years. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I have a loving and supportive family and an amazing husband. But when it came to feeling that like sisterhood circle of support, like
Yeah.
I've got you no matter what, that was kind of tenuous with like the mean girls in high school and all of those things.
Yeah.
And so I want my girls to feel that like rock solid foundation.
Yeah, I adore that, and I do think that it's interesting in terms of the meaning crisis. It's been so often linked to like the loneliness crisis that's happening right now. And of course, there's so many discussions that's linking that with like love, dating, feminism, what all of these things mean. And then in the spiritual community, I've been doing a lot of work around the witch wound and cultivating community. And there's conversations around like everyone wants a village, but no one wants to be a villager. And it just seems so there's a thread here, right? That I don't know if anyone's really like puzzled it all together into like a concrete image, but I think what you're speaking to is so, so prevalent. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the womanhood piece of
Mhm.
this for you as well, because I think it's something that I certainly struggled with in terms of friendships, right? And like you said, like mean girls are a thing. And even in like the history and lineage of feminism, like for a period of time, I'm gonna forget which wave of feminism it is, but feminism was about being like a man, right? And being able to wear pants and the very Rosie the Riveter, like we can do it too, like I can do anything you can do, but wearing high heels. But now we've moved beyond that to honoring the sacredness of femininity and the divine feminine in like the matrilineal lineages and a spiritual lineage of goddesses that we know existed long before patriarchal systems of religion. And now to feel those themes kind of reemerging with this sense of loneliness. I'm kind of speaking in a lot of circles in different ways, but I would love to hear what this means to you, especially, I mean, as a mom of two young women. Well, I suppose girls still, but as girls that are going to grow into young women and what that means in terms of this as well and how you've thought about that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. It's so I'll start from my own personal journey. I grew up feeling very disconnected from my own body, of
Mm,
feeling like I needed to control it. It needed to be a certain size and look a certain way for me to feel okay, for me to
Mhm.
feel happy. And I think that was pretty common. I think that still can be very common. I have I am very committed to and have in my own right broken that pattern where I grew up when I would see my mom speak to herself in the mirror and she never said anything to me, but the way she spoke to herself about her own body,
Yes.
when I internalized it, even though she would turn to me and tell me I was beautiful and perfect. And I want my girls to not witness one thing and hear another. I want them to see me be in right relationship with my body. And there's been a lot of healing that I've needed to do
Mhm.
to get to that place. And so I feel so proud that I've been a pattern breaker there. Like I can very clearly see this is not being passed on to them. Um, what I'm realizing now is that there's lots of other patterns that I know that are I want to break the tethers of as well. And one of them, which I didn't even know because it was so indoctrinated into me, was like what you're speaking of with the witch wound of
Mm.
feeling like my interest in astrology and magic and even spirituality or, learning about goddesses or, all of these things that it was weird and that it was strange and that people would think I was like, there's something off with me if I went too far down that woo woo road, like it. And I'm realizing, oh, this is conditioning too. This is another pattern that can be broken. And I feel so fortunate that I am part of a beautiful like community of women who we're all doing our best to like full on embrace the weird, full on just like let our full selves show whatever that looks like. And it's different expressions for all of us. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is another pattern that I get to break for my daughters who they both have called themselves witches. They're like, I'm a witch. And they're like so excited about it. And I'm like, that's amazing. And yet I still can feel in my own being a little triggered at that word
Yeah.
because of all of the weight that it has carried for
Yes.
centuries. And yet here they are feeling so light and playful and so magical when they own that word for themselves. And it's yeah, it's really, I think the more that women can gather and remember our power collectively, because that is what broke it. That's what broke our
Mhm.
of us being pushed apart and being literally killed for,
Right.
speaking about it, working with it, trying to conjure it again. And we can still feel that. We can still feel the heaviness of that. Um, And yet, when you do have the opportunity to be with women and be held by them in this non hierarchical way, and just really seeing each other, witnessing each other, holding each other, unconditional support for each other, it is like one of the most powerful things that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And so what I would love is opportunities because there's lots of women's circles, but
Mhm.
they don't yet have opportunities for like my daughters to be a part of it yet. You have to, and I get it, like sitting in ceremony for 3 hours is a heavy lift for a 9-year old. But I would love opportunities to bring them in, not just me as
Mm.
their mom teaching it, but for them to see all of the women that are gathering who often have a lot more experience with it than I do of like creating these magical environments where we meditate and journal and do cold plunges in the lake and sit in the sauna and like all of this stuff that you know you feel the magic in the community of it. So I forget even what your question was, but
No,
there
that's
we go.
beautiful. I love it. I love that, and I do love this idea. There's something so precious about, like, a little mini women's circle for young girls, but also I think not just in allowing young girls to have this connection with one another, but to have the example of strong women too that are also teaching and leading and in community with one another non-hierarchically, right? That it's like there's a difference between leading and hierarchy and embracing power and power over and being able to honor the beautiful parts of that in community with one another in a really safe way. I think that's just so stunning. And one other thing that I wanted to there were two things. One, because this just comes up a lot and it's one of my favorite recent little lines because I think a lot of us who are being initiated into these spaces and into these worlds, we have adopted this language of woo-woo. And I think it's very helpful because we all know what we're talking about when we say it, right? And also, I heard something the other day that was, is it woo woo or is it ancient and indigenous wisdom? And I was like, that's really good. That's really good. And I think also really helped me in like what you were saying with this. Am I weird? Am I crazy? This is like, oh, of course, there's like the astrology girlies and how annoying they are, right? As opposed to like celebrating a passion for something that's really engaging. And with that too, um, I've recently come to this thought that it's like men when they speak with God are often lauded as prophets and women when they speak with God are burned at the stake. And I think it just really speaks to everything that you're talking about in terms of like power and community without hierarchy and how much safety that cultivates for everyone. And I think that at least my very far future hope would be that that can trickle down into men's spaces as well, right? That I think everyone deserves this safety and community. But based on these traditions, having women's circles and spaces, I think are just so deeply healing and important for these feelings of safety. I did also want to ask because you have a very diverse language around spirituality and around different religions and cultures and practices. And earlier you said, you know, in studying different religions and practices and philosophies, that at the core, they are all speaking to something similar. What do you think that similar thing that they're speaking to is?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I'll do my best with this one. So, what I take from it is that there is this vast power, this source creative energy that we all emanate from.
Mm,
And because of that, we're all connected. And we have the opportunity in this lifetime, because I think we've chosen to be here. I think we have the opportunity to either feel that oneness and lean back in to that connection or to close ourselves off more. And so for me and the people that I love being around the most are the ones who've chosen the former, where
mm,
they're feeling back into that oneness and that connection. And how can I contribute to that oneness and that connection that runs through all of us? And then, you know, because we're humans, we're snapped out of it and we feel that isolation and we feel that individuation,
yes.
but that we keep choosing to see and feel the oneness again. And for me, that's what Buddha said, and that's what Jesus said, and that's what, you know, Muhammad said. Like, when you think about these men that were prophets, they were speaking to this oneness, this connective force. And then I think a lot of those teachings get shifted and changed to meet agendas. But my belief deep, deep down is that they experienced the oneness that we all can feel and we all can experience. And they, as we all do, chose their soul's path and tried to bring these teachings through in a way that would make sense and bring language to it. And that's why we need so many teachers, because we need reminding, we need to remember the oneness. um, because it's not like you need to find it, it's there, it's a remembering. That's how I feel it and experience it.
Mm, I love that. Clearly, I've been writing and taking notes throughout our conversation, but that the way the language used to describe that just sparked so many thoughts for me, specifically in my work of like coherence and how that's a movement of coming together and remembrance. Like when we break down the word remember, it is to remember, right? To reattach these things that exist on their own, but are still connected. And yes, I so deeply resonate with what you're saying. And there's something really tangible about the way that you say it too, that it's like I can feel it in the space that we're in together. So thank you so much for sharing. I know that I do ask the big probing questions. So thank you for being so willing to go there with me. As we yes. As we head into closing out our beautifully expansive conversation, firstly, in light of everything we've talked about, chatted about, is there anything we missed? Anything we really need to touch on? Anything you would like to go back and highlight or underline or clarify? Anything at all?
Thank you for that opportunity. I've really enjoyed our conversation and all the places that it went, because I was really looking forward to having this expansive time together. Oh goodness. We covered a lot. I'm like, is there anything I want to circle back to? I think I'll speak to the woman who has a business or feels that she is meant to have a business. And just to remind her that her work, if she feels that calling, and we know, if you feel it, you know it,
Mhm.
feel that calling, it's time and we need it now. It is not a moment to be like, oh, yeah, I've had this vision for the past 3 years and it keeps coming back to me, but I'll do it once my kids are in college or whatever, whatever it is we're telling ourselves. Like, it is here now for a reason. It is needed now.
Mhm.
None of us have it all figured out. It's not like, some of us arrive with like, here's the exact, 200-step plan to build your business. No, we're just all making it up. It's just a matter of starting. Or maybe you have a business like I did, and it's a moment of deepening or pivoting. And that's scary too. When you've built
Mhm.
something that's brought in money and brought in clients and served hundreds of people, to say, hey, I'm going to show up differently now. And I'm going to take this conversation in new directions. Um, but again, if it's coming through, it's needed now, not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now, but now. And so, starting in whatever small ways you can, do that. Like,
Mm.
whatever small things you can start devoting yourself to in the practice of moving in this direction, is let it be enough, but do something, move towards it, because that's all it's asking of you, is just to move towards it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I could not agree more. And it's so true. We do need it now more than ever. And I think there's so much more support for it now than ever too. So it's really such a beautiful time to lean in. And not only do you deserve listener deserve to have this life that is your dream life, but the world deserves your work as well. The world deserves what you have to offer, and we need it. We want it. I want it. I would have to imagine Cailen does too. I feel comfortable speaking for that. Cailen, thank you so much for being here, spending this time. If anyone is ready to take that step and resonates with your message, of course, links to your work, to being able to work with you, but also learn more about you, follow you across everything. All of the really awesome information will be linked down below. Of course, obviously, I so resonate with Cailen's work, and I could not suggest working with her more. So please do take advantage of those links down below wherever you are listening or watching. To close out our conversation, I have one final question, which is one word that describes how you are feeling right now.
Mm. I would say grateful.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was the first one that came through. I think just grateful for being able to have time to share what feels so important to me and to feel safe in doing that and supported in doing that. I mean, what a privilege.
Mm, I I could not agree more. Thank you so much for sharing your story and what is important to you. I think it's just so important that we have these conversations, and I'm so grateful for your time and energy and expertise, but also your vulnerability in sharing, just sharing in general, sharing everything and your heart so openly. So, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you, Reese. This was wonderful.
Thank you all so very much for being here today. And of course, a huge thank you to Cailen Ascher for her time, her energy, her expertise, and her presence during this conversation. I even got a little teary eyed at one point just thinking about the beauty of mother daughter bonds and how purpose and fulfillment is just so embedded as seeds within us. And I mean, I feel like I say this in the outro of every single episode, but it's so true that this is just my favorite thing. And it reminds me why I love this work is in moments like this, reflecting on conversations like this and all that I learned and how much I feel inspired to keep creating. And I hope that you feel inspired too, because that really is the ultimate goal, is to want to inspire everyone towards coherence, whatever that means to you. And Cailen's work really speaks to me as an individual, and the idea of not just creating a company or having a mission, but creating a movement so resonated with me. And I just think that what Cailen is doing is really unique and special. And I think we need spaces like this, like what Cailen is creating for women, to feel empowered and emboldened to be subversive and to speak their truth, no matter what the reaction of that may be. Again, I highly recommend you head on down to the description to check out more of Cailen and her work. Everything you need to know that will take you to all of the important places will be down there. And again, if you want to learn more about the Cohere Collective, our mission, more about the heart behind the Making Meaning podcast, there will be links down below to check that out as well as social media links to @the Cohere Collective, where I get way more casual, way more stripped back, and talk about all sorts of things across pop culture and social media and therapy and spiritual stuff, and I do tarot and all sorts of fun things. So if you want to see coherence in practice a little bit more, I highly recommend that you follow us across social media, all @the Cohere Collective. A huge thank you to Nicole Oesterreicher for making Meaning's art and podcast cover. You can find her on Instagram @Nicole O Creates or Nicole O Design. And a huge thank you to Tristan Morgan for making Meaning's theme music. You can find him on Instagram @TristanMorgan. Right now, I am feeling, I kind of want to say like charged. It's a weird word, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling a little bit of pressure and stress from the work things that I have going right now, and I'm really working on soothing my nervous system, regulating all of those beautiful things to ensure that I'm not trying to work as quickly as possible to get as much done as possible, but I'm working with as much ease as possible, with as much presence as possible, with as much gratitude as possible. But deadlines sometimes will sneak in and hijack that thought process and make me feel like, okay, we need to get this stuff done. But it's that self-talk and calling the present awareness to mind of it always gets done. And it's okay to do so with more intentionality besides just rushing through the process every time. And then on top of that, I am still feeling really excited with where I am with my work right now and feeling really charged and jazzed to keep working. And sometimes that energy does transfer into speed, but I'm working on trying to not make speed or quote unquote productivity the goal. The goal is presence. The goal is coherence. Always. It's always what I come back to. It's always the right word. But right now I'm feeling charged and excited for what the future holds for all of us. I think as a collective, we really are moving in a hopeful direction. As hard as it is to remember that in some moments, I do believe it. I really, really do. And I'm so grateful to you for being a part of that, for being what reminds me of that hopeful movement. And thank you for being here, for being my favorite part of the making meaning process. And as always, I hope you feel like you are living more coherently. Until next time, love.